You think when you hear news like Putin's statement just a few minutes ago, that you can sort it out and you can sort of make a statement and you can relay the information and comment on it, and then you post it, or I do, and you suddenly think, no, there's more to say. Putin, this great chess master of deception, is indulging his favourite pastime, issuing a statement so laden with caveats, qualifications, and duplicitous rhetoric that it collapses almost under the weight of its own contradictions. His pronouncements about a ceasefire in Ukraine, made unsurprisingly alongside his perpetual toad, Alexander Lukashenko, drip with the same old false sincerity, the same calculated ambiguity, the same fundamental dishonesty that has characterised his entire reign. Let's be clear, that's a Liz Truss line. If Putin were genuinely interested in peace, we would not be talking about ceasefire conditions or negotiating territorial concessions. We would be discussing how Russia intends to rebuild the cities it has obliterated, the tower blocks, the electrical supply stations that it has bombarded, to compensate the millions displaced, to take responsibility for the atrocities committed by Russia in Ukraine. And of course, that question never enters the carefully worded statement. Because this isn't about peace, at least not in that concept. It's about taking pieces of Ukraine or piecing all over Ukraine. It's about stalling, deflecting, and manoeuvring for advantage. Putin's argument is, in essence, a labyrinth of weasel words, and he claims to support a truce, but demands a guarantee that Ukrainian troops will not use it to regroup. That's what he wants to do. This is vexatious. I was going to say vexatious litigation. It's not litigation. We've not got that far. It's simply vexatious. He says a ceasefire is only acceptable if it leads to a long-term peace, which in his lexicon means total Ukrainian submission to the Russian boot. He asks how Ukraine would use the 30 days of ceasefire, as though Kyiv, the nation being bombed into rubble, is the trustworthy party in the equation and actually has the freedom to do something. He presents himself as the victim, feigning concern over the military incursions into Russia, as if Ukraine is the aggressor in a war Moscow initiated. It's the diplomatic equivalent of an arsonist demanding assurances that the fire department won't regroup before he sets another target ablaze. And yet, even as Putin attempts to masquerade as a statesman contemplating peace, his forces continue with their relentless advance. He admits this outright. Russian troops are advancing everywhere, along a front stretching nearly 2,000 kilometers. This is not the language of a man seeking a peace, seeking to end a war. It's the language of a man buying time, manipulating narratives, and ensuring that any agreement ultimately secures his gains. But the most telling absence in Putin's remark is any discussion of reconstruction. If his commitment to peace were sincere, if he even had one sliver of moral responsibility, he would be outlining plans to rebuild Odessa, to rebuild Mariupol. He's done a little bit of that anyway. Restore Kharkiv, compensate the families of Bucha and Irpin. Instead, his fixation is purely on territorial control, military logistics, and diplomatic manoeuvring. The conversation is not just about justice or restoration, or about rebuilding the Zaporizhia power station or making it safe, but about the mechanics of Russian consolidation. This is why his posture is ultimately hollow. He may drape himself in the robes of a negotiator, but these robes are threadbare and reek of mendacity, because in the end, he is a toad. He is as much a toad as Lukashenko sitting next to him. Except in Putin's case, the warts aren't showing so clearly. He's not interested in ending this war. He's interested in securing the maximum possible reward for his aggression while convincing the world that he is merely a reasonable man responding to circumstances. He needs to face reality. He needs to admit to the world that he's dead, get on with the funeral, and be over and done with it. He needs to take responsibility for this dreadful war in the first place, and yet there are those who still take his words at face value. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in his remarks preceding talks in Saudi Arabia, all but conceded that Ukrainian territorial concessions were the only way to end the war. This is the tragic price of allowing Putin's deceit to shape the global conversation. When the aggressor starts dictating the terms, the victim is forced to surrender ground. But make no mistake, Putin isn't negotiating from a position of righteous grievance. He is not a misunderstood leader grappling with complex global dilemmas. He's a liar and a rogue, and he's dead. He's a man who might as well be selling counterfeit insurance policies or running a backstreet pimping organization in St. Petersburg. Yeah, he's already spent years perfecting that art of holding the handbag while his clients, separatist warlords, mercenaries, and oligarchs go in to deliver the goods. And now, as he pretends to deliberate over ceasefires and peace proposals, he expects us to believe that this leopard has changed its spots, that he's not standing out behind, hiding in the glow of a red light on a door, but a man who truly desires peace. No, he's not. A man who truly desires peace doesn't split hairs over a 30-day ceasefire terms with while his army presses forward. A man who truly desires peace doesn't dictate conditions to his victims while absolving himself of any responsibility for the damage he's done. A man who truly desires peace doesn't make concessions, makes concessions. He doesn't say Ukraine's got to do this, Ukraine's got to do this while he demands. He continues his campaign of destruction and expects Ukraine to roll over. No, we've seen all that in the bordello in St. Petersburg. Putin needs to get back to doing what he really knows how to do. Putin doesn't want peace. He wants to lock in his territorial theft. He wants to rearm his forces. He wants to prepare for the next stage in his imperial adventure. The world shouldn't fall for his tricks. And Ukraine shouldn't be asked to surrender its land and its dignity to appease a predator who has never, in his entire reign, kept a promise he didn't intend to break. If Putin wants to talk about peace, he should start with a different question, not what Ukraine is willing to give up, but what Russia is willing to give back.